plays he's able to get. Obviously, he's got lightning speed. I mentioned before I ran like a 4.4. I think he's faster than me. I'll say that. So props to Hollywood Brown. I think it would be close, but I think
I'm not acknowledging this is happening.
he's.
All right, and welcome to another episode of DB2. We are talking second half of Week 5 today. David Brem here with Butler. As always, Butler, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Here we go. We got 16 games, I think, to talk about today. So
We have 8 games. It's half the slate.
that's right. It's 16 teams, is what I said, right?
Not what you
16
said.
teams, 8 games to talk about. If there's any player that we missed, you're like, where's that guy at? Where's that team at? Check our episode on the one that went out on Tuesday, the longer one there. But we have 2 longer episodes this week, and we might change things up next week. We've been discussing that, but definitely just hit the subscribe button. You'll see it. You'll see it all. So that's great. Thanks so much in advance if you do that. Like the video if you enjoyed. Now, here we go. We're gonna dive right into this. We're not gonna waste any time. Kind of already did a few seconds, but Titans v Jags, the powerhouses, the Tennessee Titans, the leaders of the AFC South versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban Meyer, what is going on down there? That is a problem. Okay, I mean, I don't know. How is he going to last a few more weeks? He's lost the locker room. I don't. That's about as exciting as I can get, because this game is not interesting at all to me. Derrick
We
Henry.
get excited. Urban Meyer's going to be a great coach at USC. I mean, I don't know what.
Derrick Henry, you start him. If AJ Brown is playing, you start him. Julio's not looking like he's going to play, but good chance you may have to start him if he goes. But the receivers haven't been great at all. No. Chester Rogers, Nick Westbrook, I guess they both played a lot last. Josh Reynolds. I mean, there's some like deeper plays there, but outside of that, not much to say. But I do want to talk about McNichols. 40% of the snaps, had 8 catches, so he actually was a PPR monster. If you're in a deeper league, there's a chance you may have to play him. This is probably not his game, though. I think Derrick Henry is going to have a field day with him. But I will say, McNichols, if Tennessee is heavily underdog, because I don't think they're a great team and they're passing a lot, I think McNichols is super interesting going forward, because he's clearly their receiving back. And they're good. Yeah. I don't think they're a good team. So I don't think anybody in the AFC South is good. I don't think they're good. So if they're facing tough competition, McNichols may have big days.
Yeah, and he certainly took advantage of the fact that AJ Brown and Julio were out. Like, they were looking for anybody to catch the ball last week. But I agree with you. In games when they're probably look to be getting blown out, which is probably going to be quite a few of them, or especially in a game where AJ Brown or Julio is out, because even the week before, only AJ Brown was out, but Julio played. And he was still the 33rd best running back. So, yeah, one of those we like to do, names nobody else is thinking about. Maybe keep your eye on, especially in a game where they're going to be down, which is going to be a lot of them this season. I agree with you there. On the other side, we got Jacksonville. Not a whole lot of excitement to talk about. I mean, you're starting Robinson. Other than that, like, I guess you could be starting Marvin Jones, if depending on your team makeup, but there's not a whole lot going on in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Arnold, new tight end, they traded for. Maybe, well, it's early. He only had 2 targets. Marvin Jones only had 3 targets. So just this whole Jacksonville offense, he probably staying away from. And
Chanel looked better last week, but
yeah, did have 7 targets, 6 for 99. So he's definitely interesting. Currently, wide receiver 60. This was by far his best game. Good chance you may have to start Marvin or him, depending on how deep the league you are or how desperate you are. Obviously, Robinson is a stud, and you're happy with the production he's given you the last 2 weeks, because he's been phenomenal.
And you can't ignore there is some stuff going on in that locker room that we don't know how that's going to affect the on-field play.
But winning changes a lot. They might win this game. I think they can win, so we'll see. Is that home? You never know.
Oh, the Titans are nowhere near a juggernaut. They're going to come in there and destroy them. So we'll see how that goes. Next up, Patriots-Texans. Patriots side of the ball. Mac Jones didn't look terrible, like NFL wise, didn't look terrible last week, but he's still not fantasy relevant. Not a whole lot on the. I mean, you're starting Myers, and Bolden was like I think that was mostly passing, wasn't it? Yeah. It was mostly in the receiving game. So I'm still probably not going near a New England running back. There's just not a lot. Like, this is weird. There's not a lot of New England you want to play either.
Yeah, I mean, Jacoby Myers, I think there's a good chance. I mean, he's coming off a nice couple weeks, so you're
Yeah.
feeling pretty solid about him. I think this is maybe a trend going forward. I think he definitely has potential to be a top 20 wide receiver a lot of weeks. He's their main guy there. Tight ends, I think the problem is you're going to have this where this week they were both okay. You're going to have this problem where Hunter Henry and Jonnu both got a touchdown. Jonnu only had 3 catches for 14 yards. He got a touchdown. That's good enough to get him tied in 11. But you're going to have those weeks where most weeks they're not both going to score touchdowns. One guy will probably have a really solid week. The other guy won't do anything. It's hard to tell which one. They're both kind of interesting as tight end twos, but not much more than that. So, yeah, I don't think there's much there. Mac Jones, best fantasy day he's had so far. So props to
And
him.
that was 18.
Yeah,
so
solid game for sure.
Yeah. You want to take the other half?
All right. It wasn't great. All right. I don't know if you saw my little notes that I left here.
I did. I almost wish you could share like the notes on the games, because everybody else is just numbers, but there's always like a little note. Not always, but definitely this week, little notes.
Okay, so it was
about
a
the
40-0. I've never seen a team get cheated so hard than the Houston Texans. The refs just had it in for them. That's probably what happened. 40-0.
Sure.
Not great. Davis Mills is not a good quarterback right now. He had a QBR of 0.8.
Is that good?
0.8.
It's like golf, right? Like low numbers are good.
He was dead last quarterbacks. He had negative points. Philip Lindsay had negative points. Jordan Akins had negative points because I believe he fumbled or something. I'm not sure. He somehow had negative points. So yeah, it was not great overall. Brandon Cooks, not great, but that's not his fault. He's amazing. 5 for 47. He still finds fantasy value when Davis Mills threw for 87 yards. So props to him. He's incredible.
Your view on Cooks just turned so hard this season already. We're a few weeks in.
I mean, I thought they weren't. I thought it wasn't an indictment on him. It was because the quarterback play.
Oh no, I appreciate you being willing to admit.
I mean, Tyrod was fantastic when he was in. Way better than anybody expected. He was like Sam Darnold. Like it was crazy how good he was. And then obviously the injury. Hopefully he's back soon. We haven't heard much. But yeah, Brandon Cooks has been phenomenal. Better weeks ahead. I think it depends. I mean, Davis Mills he's going to throw for more than 87 yards. I'm guessing here in the next.
I would hope so.
Hopefully
I don't know who their third string is.
But they're heavy underdogs here, so 8.5 points.
Well, their running back situation is a wasteland.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a mess. So stay away from all of them except for Brandon Cooks. I think you probably are starting.
Well, yeah, like you said, if he can find value with an 87-yard passing game, then you'll be fine.
And when Tyrod comes back, I think everybody gets a nice uptick, especially Brandon Cooks.
Sounds good. Next up, Bears Raiders. There's kind of the normal. Robinson still isn't really doing what we expect him to do. It's getting to the point where I think we talked about this last week. I think he's outside the must start. Like you're probably not at this point, unless it all based on team makeup. But for a guy who was drafted as the number 11 wide receiver, he's currently number 68. So not great. Mooney had a pretty good game last week, but you're not putting him anywhere near your lineup. Like that was crazy high compared to everything else he's done. But the interesting one is Damian Williams, and he had 55 yards on 8 touches. Do you have the snap count in front of you? I don't know how that. I think that ended up still 2-1 or something like that.
Yeah, but obviously once I don't know what it was when Montgomery went down because Herbert got 7 snaps as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was about 2-1. But obviously a lot of that. I mean, Montgomery went down, so Montgomery had 23 carries before the injury. He had a great fantasy.
He's about
day.
4 to 5 weeks out. So Damian Williams is probably going to be. I mean, it seems like he's going to be the workhorse there on a team that doesn't trust their quarterback yet. They have officially backed Justin Fields, so that's good. I saw that today. I think today.
Yeah.
That they officially backed him today, are finally admitted. So, but here's the thing: a workhorse back on a team that doesn't have the best passing game in the world, I think you got to pencil him in.
Yeah, I mean, if you got him able to get him on waivers, which I think a lot of people were able to, I mean, this is immediately a top 15, top 20 back. You'll probably start him, which is fantastic if you were able to get him. This should have been number one pickup for everybody if he was available. I don't see anybody else that would even be close. But yeah, 8 for 55, so that great average there. Didn't have a 23-yard run in there, but yeah, a touchdown as well. A solid game, but obviously you weren't starting him this week, so you're now looking forward, and the fact that he showed something before, and now you're like, yeah, I'm feeling good. I can throw him in. Like he already showed it to you. You don't even have to wait. You know what he's going to be. They've already told us because unfortunately Montgomery got injured there. So yeah, Justin Fields was solid, I think, in this game. I mean, he only threw it 17 times, but we see something there. So happy to see that. But yeah, Allen Robinson, I know you mentioned this, but they have him. I'm looking at ESPN wide receiver 25. I mean, I guess looking at the people below him, like, I guess, but I mean, it's tough. I mean, I hope you have better choices than Allen Robinson. I think later in the year he'll be better because I think Justin Fields will be better. But yeah, like me personally, I didn't start him. I have him on my bench, so I had better options. So maybe you do as well. You may not. I just think he's going to have a big day on my bench, and then I'll play him. But for now, I'll keep him on my bench.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, if you were able to snag Williams, congratulations. We've talked about it a little bit, but I also like running backs with rookie quarterbacks because they have to dump off more often.
Yeah, and David Montgomery, because we're focusing on this. I think it was in the title there. Montgomery it was running back 15, even going down in this game. Running back 15. He's had a couple big weeks. This week was really big. He was running back 4, even with getting injured. So I mean, now you're taking Damian Williams, who I think is a pretty talented running back coming in. For somebody who was running back 15, I think he'll be around that mark as well. So you already see what Montgomery was able to do with this offense. I think Damian Williams will be very similar. So if you're looking for future for the first, for the next 4 to 5 weeks when Montgomery's down, I really think 15, somewhere around there, he'll be ranked pretty much every week.
Yeah, absolutely. I want you to tell me if anybody on the Raiders not named Waller is worth talking about on a fantasy football show.
Josh Jacobs, I think.
Sorry, yeah, that's my bad. I'm gonna little behind the scenes. Our order has him as like the third running back because he was out for so many weeks, and then I got confused, and I'm not very smart, so we'll just admit that. Yeah, sorry, Josh Jacobs, absolutely. So he looked. He ended up in his first game back as running back 30, but I still think he's probably starting in almost anybody who's got him at this point, especially with some of the running back issues other teams have had and things like that. He's going to be the workhorse, and I don't. It'd be tough to sit him. I know he didn't have a great game, but I think it'd be tough to sit him.
Yeah, I'm looking at okay, so he's currently ranked, again, I'm just using ESPN here, which I know is not the all and be all, but he's ranked this week running back 21, which I'm looking at the guys. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'd actually probably play him over him. Antonio Gibson, assuming he's plays, that's probably about. So he's somewhere around 20, I think. You have Leonard Fournette, Cordell Patterson, Kareem Hunt, Damian Williams. There's Damian Williams there, Jonathan Taylor. All those guys I would play over Josh Jacobs. None of the guys below him. So he's probably around running back 20 for me as well. I've really ranked him maybe 19, 18, somewhere around there. I really like Josh Jacobs. I think he's a great back, but he's obviously coming back from this injury. And still, I mean, running back, you drafted him at running back 18. He's right where I think that's kind of where he is. So yeah, if you drafted him at running back 18, this is probably your second running back. You may have been able to pick up a Damian Williams. I'd play him over him. This may be a flex. There might be somebody else. Kareem Hunt. He might have had. There's some other guys he might have picked up later on. But for me, yeah, this is the about what you think. Running back 18. He's back. You put him in right where you drafted him. You expect him to be your second running back, and that's what he's going to be.
Yep. And Waller, you're penciling in every week.
Very good.
And honestly, nobody else is really. Like, if you're in a real pinch, I guess you could throw, like Renfro's technically, but he's had 2 good weeks in a row, so I guess you could throw him in there, or even Ruggs in a pinch. But they're not guys you're excited about. They're kind of just guys you have to use if you have to.
Yeah.
The Brown side of the ball, we've talked about a bunch. Running backs, both solid value. Not exactly the order I think anybody expected going into this season, though, for sure. Hunt has actually been the better running back every week but Okay, every week but 2, but he's been like, I mean, he's right now the number 10 running back overall. I don't think anybody. I think yeah. I just. Do you think they end this way, or do you think they just end really close and you're not really? I'm not sure which one's going to end up on top, but I think they're going to end up with like within 4 spots of each other.
Yeah, I think they're going to be close. They're taking on the Chargers this week. I do worry a little bit with Chubb in this game. I think we might see a little more Hunt. Hunt was again, this is a 50-50 split. This is dead, which we
Hmm.
didn't expect. This is
Yeah,
dead 50-50. So every week is like about 50-50. Yeah, I think Chubb will take over eventually that ahead of him, but I think it's super close. Obviously, if you drafted Hunt, very happy at running back
yeah,
23. Chubb kind of disappointed. But I still think you're disappointed. The last couple weeks maybe not as good as you would hope. He still rushed for 100 yards. He just didn't get a touchdown. He's fine. I think he'll still finish around that running back 10, maybe even a little above that. He's currently running back 17. I think both these guys, based on Baker, maybe that an injury, I think they're going to keep focusing on the run. I think both these guys, as crazy as it seems, might be finished top 12. Two running backs on Cleveland. I know that might be crazy because it's tough. Can you really sustain this? But their receiving core is so bad,
yeah,
but their offensive line is so good. I actually think this is
yeah,
a team that can run at will. The team you can't
yeah.
do anything. You're like, I'm running, but there's nothing you can do. And I think Baker is a talented enough quarterback to at least respect as a passer, so he's able to take some shots when to get the defense back a little bit. And Jarvis
Yeah.
has been out, so that's a big missing piece as well. Yeah, I like both these guys. I think they're
Yeah.
you're a little disappointed with Chubb the last couple of weeks, but he'll be fine. He's still a top running back, top 12. Kareem Hunt, top 15. So I like them both.
Yeah. I'd probably put them more like, I think best case scenario they're both top 15, but either way, you're starting, and you're not touching a pass catcher right now. I know people want to start Odell because of his name, but I would not go anywhere near him.
They did miss out on a connection in this game. His game could have been much, much better, but again, he got 7 targets. Baker, especially, if he's nursing an injury with his shoulder. I mean, you can
Um,
see in this was not a great game. It's a really bad game. So could be a credit to Vikings, but could be a credit to their defense. But this was a bad game, and if this is something going forward, I actually think we might see Case Keenum. As crazy, I think we might see Case Keenum if this and Baker might sit for a few weeks.
yeah, get healthy. I could see it. All right, other side, we got the Chargers. Uh, Eckler's a stud. I don't know how much we have to talk about him. He's insane. Um, After that, I mean, there's a reasonable chance you're starting Herbert. He's kind of in that up in the air territory for quarterbacks, where depending on how things went, waiver wires, and if you drafted 2, he's kind of at that tail end of the starting quarterbacks. I guess is the best way to say it. And um, I think you're still. I mean, Keenan Allen, you're starting. Williams, you're starting. He had a terrible week 4. Um, he only had 1 catch, so that was bad. Cook is a guy. Cook's a weird guy. Where do you stand on Cook?
I think because of the way if he was where he was drafted, I think there's a good chance you're probably rolling with him a lot of the rest of the year. You probably don't have a better tight end. Where
Okay.
if you picked him up, you might have picked somebody else up and he maybe didn't work out, so you picked and you went. I think he is probably he was drafted as 18. He's currently 12. I think he's 10 to 12, and I think there's a good
Yeah.
chance that you don't have a better tight end option on the waiver wire or a lot of teams, carry 2 tight ends for whatever reason. You'll see that, like, why do you have Travis Kelsey and another tight? It makes no
And
sense.
anybody? Yeah.
but some people do that. So yeah, I think there's a good chance. He's currently tight end 12 after this nice week, and I think he's somewhere around there, 10 to 12.
I was actually lucky enough to he was on a waiver in one of my leagues for some reason, and I grabbed him, especially this week. I think he's gonna have a really good game
Yeah,
against
he
the
hasn't done
Browns.
much. I mean, he was a waiver on mine for a few weeks as well. Yeah, and he hasn't done much. The first 3 weeks is his best game. But yeah, I thought the offense is really. I think Herbert's really good. I'm higher on Herbert. I think he was drafted as 8. I think he'll finish around there. But yeah, you did mention. If you got Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold, I think they're all very close this week, honestly. So
Yeah,
I think there's a chance against this Cleveland defense that you could say, I might play Daniel Jones or I might play Sam Darnold. I think you can make that case. I think it's close. If
yeah,
you could definitely own one of those as well as Herbert.
absolutely. Speaking of Daniel Jones, next up
I did that
the
on
Giants.
purpose.
Sure it was. um, so as far as the Giants go, Jones has been obviously externally surprising, QB6 on the season. So a guy that I guess you may have picked up after week 1 on the waivers. Very unlikely he was probably drafted. Um, Saquon got kind of back to he's got 2 top 10 weeks in a row, so he's kind of roared back after his first couple weeks not playing fantastic. Past that, Shepard's been pretty good. Um, is he? I know he didn't play last week. Is he? I think that was a 1 week thing.
I
should have
saw
wrote
the
that
injury.
down.
I'm not 100%. I thought they said he was leaning towards playing. I think.
Okay, I thought.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's limited in practice, so
okay.
so it looks like he will be back. Yes.
So if Shepard's playing, I mean, there's a reasonable chance he's going to be in your flex, but I don't think he's going to be probably much past that. Um, After that, you have anything on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think Shepard and Shepard is probably the guy over Galladay.
Oh
He
yeah.
has been that guy. Galladay had a great day. I think Galladay's more a deeper flex. I think you definitely could play him for sure after this game. He showed you something. But if Shepard's back, obviously that's gonna take away some of that, I would think. But yeah,
Mhm.
Barkley, it's nice to see that. He was fantastic. That 54-yard run catch for a touchdown obviously helps pad that number to make him running back 2 for the week. Nothing at tight end. So yeah, Shepard, yeah, I think there is a good shot. You play him at flex. Barkley, obviously, if you drafted him, rolling him out there every single week. And Daniel Jones, I already mentioned. There's a chance. I think he's a borderline top 10 guy this week, going against these Cowboys. So I would say there's a good chance you're starting him if you picked him up. If you picked him up, there's a good chance you picked him up because you don't have one of the top 5 guys or so. So you might say, oh yeah, I like this matchup. I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, like you just said, other side of the ball, we got the Cowboys. Um, I mean, you're looking at the names, you kind of know. Prescott, you're starting. He hasn't been a top 10 guy. He's been like a third, but I think you're probably. I mean, you're. I'd be shocked if you got a better option. Elliott, you don't have a better option. Um, Pollard, after his kind of really hot week 2, is kind of come back to where we thought he'd be in week 3 and 4. Probably not a guy, probably just a stash guy at this point in case Elliott goes down. Um, Lamb, Cooper, probably. I can't foresee a situation where you're not starting them. So I know you want to talk about Schultz. I know he's kind of your guy.
Of course. I don't know if I really have much to say. Obviously, he's been great the last couple weeks. I've been high on him. I was big on. I said that this didn't make any sense. That I don't know what people are looking at when they're ranking Blake Jarwin over Dalton Schultz. It makes no sense to me. Proves me right again. Back to back weeks. Uh, eight targets. Had a great day here. Got in the end zone, which always helps. I mean, that's going to be the difference maker in a lot of these times with tight ends. So he's great. Yeah, I think he's made himself. He's a top 10 tight end. I don't think he's a top 3 guy like he's been the last couple weeks, but I think he's a top 10 guy. We
Yeah, but
talked
if you
about
don't have one of the like top 4 or 5,
we
like
talked
he's
about
definitely
Jared Cook. I think Dalton Schultz and him are very close. This is kind of where I'm thinking. They're around
okay.
that 10 to 12. I don't think he's. I mean, I still put him over. I still you have the Kelsey, Waller, Hawkinson, Kittle, Andrews,
Yeah.
Fant, probably still rocking Pitts. And then there's that now we're at to about 8. So that was 7 guys I just threw out there. 8 to 12. I think he's somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So for a guy that nobody really expected anything out of,
Yeah,
that's a pretty good deal if you happen to grab him.
for sure.
Next up, 49ers. So they I'll be honest, I didn't see much this game. Did they just pull Garoppolo or did he get hurt?
He got hurt. Yeah,
He got hurt.
yeah.
Okay. But Trey Lance came in, looked pretty good in relief though. 9 for 18, a couple of touchdowns. Looked pretty good. Trey Sermon officially. I mean, this happened in week 3, but officially the guy there now.
Well,
Like we thought might.
Elijah Mitchell looks like he's going to be back. So,
Yeah, I don't. I think.
that it seems like they're pointing. They're saying that if he's played well enough, they think he's going to go
I
back in
know,
and
but they
start.
put so much into Sermon, and Sermon has looked decent. I just, at best, I think it's going to be a timeshare. I think at best we're looking at 50-50 if you're a Mitchell owner, and I am. I just don't. I don't know. and maybe I'll be proven wrong this week. I just don't see them investing that much and then handing the job right back to Mitchell. I don't see it.
We'll see.
Um,
Like Elijah Mitchell, I think is pretty close. Pretty, I wouldn't say unanimous, but a lot of places have him ranked over Trey Sermon. Most people, I think it's going to
yeah.
be Elijah Mitchell will get the majority here. This is interesting. Obviously, we'll see. We're gonna have to just wait and see. You're probably not starting either one of them. Wait and see
Yeah.
this week. Obviously, if Elijah Mitchell got dropped, pick him up. He should be owned, but yeah, I mean, I think you want a piece of this offense. I think whenever you got a mobile quarterback like Trey Lance, we'll see if he keeps the job when Garoppolo's healthy. I think he's not playing this week with a calf injury. I always think of Lamar Jackson, though it hasn't shown this year, or Robert Griffin III back when like whenever it always seems like those like option play like running backs have so much value, and I think that it's just another if you have a decently talented running back there, they can have some big days. So we'll have to wait and see. Debo's a beast. Kittle, better days ahead. He had 11 targets, just 4 for 40. But yeah, obviously you're playing him. So yeah,
Debo's crazy.
Yeah, he's been having. He had that wide open touchdown this play. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, that huge touchdown. Even without that, if he took that off the board, he still had a massive day. So he's incredible. Yeah, Trey Lance. That's another guy you might have stashed. Good chance you're starting him right off the gates. He's probably a top 15 guy this week. You might make the case he's right there with Darnold and a few other guys, so you might be starting him.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
If you feel like
I think I'm starting those guys over him, but you probably don't have that guy and Lance. Like you probably have one or the other. Maybe the guy you drafted isn't performing. Lance had a bad start right away. Especially since like there's this could be somewhat of a shootout game. There could be quite a bit of passing, so. And the reason it could be somewhat of a shootout game is we got Arizona on the other side. So Kyler,
good. He's good.
Stud. Hopkins. Last couple weeks, not the best, but nothing you're really that worried about. I mean, unless I know it's tough for you to be objective on this, but are you worried about Hopkins?
The only reason I would be worried is obviously it's not a Hopkins thing. Where you drafted him, if you drafted again,
yes, that's super unfortunate.
He would not be wide receiver 4. There's not a chance. He's probably more like wide receiver 7, 8, somewhere in there. And he obviously hasn't been that yet, but I do think, I think he'll be that. It's just so much. We see AJ Green. I know you're like, but he's still a pivotal part of that offense. So right now he's still there. But even if AJ Green takes a step back, we have Rondale Moore, the rookie. Max Williams, the tight end, is decently involved. Chase Edmonds is a huge part of the offense. He's been great. He's a top 15 back. And Kyler with his rushing, he's going to take some touchdowns just running them in. So there's so much talent. And James Conner, they love to run going down in. We're going to talk about him here in a second. So there's just so much here on the offensive side that I do think it's just a great offense. Like that's the thing. It's just a great offense. And Hopkins,
a lot of mouths to feed.
Hopkins is the best player, but I mean, I guess let's go to Kyler because quarterback's so important. But like the best weapon that Kyler has is DeAndre Hopkins. There's no doubt about it. But there's a lot of good weapons, and sometimes the game plan just doesn't lead to DeAndre Hopkins having big days. But he week 1 he had a great day. I think that will be a lot of those. Just the last few weeks has not been. He still had 7 targets. He gets 7 targets, 4 for 67. As we're saying this, it's not like it's a terrible day. It's just not Hopkins. Like what you.
It's not the number 4 wide receiver that you draft.
If he gets in the end zone, you're like, okay, pretty solid. You just think in the end zone.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about Connor in a second. I just want to touch on real quick. Max Williams. I think we've talked about him a couple times. He has made himself a weekly consideration. I'm not gonna say he's a guy you're throwing in no matter what, but he's a guy that every week you're at least thinking about starting.
Yeah. I mean, he's on the tight end 2 radar. Hopefully you have,
hopefully you have some better, but
Schultz, Conklin, somebody that might be better. But I think, once you get down to Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith and Austin Hooper, Zach Ertz, like there's a list of guys. I think he's kind of in there, and a great offense. He could have.
I'd rather have. A lot of times you'd rather have the upside if you're that low, anyways. You'd rather have the upside of somebody like Max Williams who could very easily.
He's had 2 really big weeks and then 2 weeks not great. So boomer bust type guy.
Yeah, Welcome to the world of tight ends. But you touched on it real quick, but let's just a little bit deeper on James Conner. He actually had more carries this week than Chase Edmonds. Also, a couple catches. He is definitely getting the down low work, the red zone work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's frustrating as an Edmonds owner. I mean, Edmonds
Yeah.
still, he had 4 catches for 19 yards,
Yeah,
ran for
he's the
120
guy,
yards.
but
But yeah, I mean, Edmonds is a top 15 guy. So, I mean, where you drafted him, I know you want to be disappointed because you're like, man, you want those touchdowns. He's still the guy. And I mean, when it was draft time, there wasn't that much difference between Edmonds and Connor. There's clearly a difference. All right, Edmonds is clearly the guy. Connor might be a top 25 guy though, top 30. I mean, he's getting there. Like because he's getting those, when it gets close to the goal line. He had 18 carries. Now, granted, they played really well. They were ahead a lot of this game. That probably has a lot to do with it. But he out carried him. Only had 50 yards in those, so obviously didn't do much. But you got to think once you get close to the goal line, I don't really look at yards per carry as much because you're trying to get the first. You're getting those first downs.
It's tough to get a long average when you have 2 yards to go.
Yeah, so I don't look at it as much. That's clearly how they use him. He had a couple touchdowns in this game. He also had a couple catches. So finished as running back 7. Edmonds was running back 11. You paid running back 26 for him when you drafted him.
No.
And he's currently running back 16 on the year. So don't worry if you're Edmonds. Obviously, you wish there was more touchdowns, but because he's so involved in the receiving game, because he's just such a weapon, I would not worry about that. This is more about James Conner and how he is going to be he's going to get more touchdowns. Value. And if you see him on the waiver wire for whatever reason, you won't now, but if you did, hopefully you picked him up. If you think, if you're able to get the value, if people don't value him up, maybe he doesn't have a good week or whatever, because there's going to be weeks where he doesn't do that much, because the way he play, how he's used, Edmonds is a lot safer, which is why he's ranked much higher. But James Conner is, I think he's a top 25 guy, maybe top 30.
He's a crazy strong once bye weeks hit guy. Like when your running back's out, your main running back is out. Like it's nice to have a guy like that. Like I don't need him every week, but I don't feel bad putting him in.
Which is kind of interesting because usually when we talk about running backs, like the second guy, we're talking about the receiving guy, the guy coming in and getting all these catches.
Yeah.
James Conner is the complete opposite. He's the second guy, but he comes in to get the carries. He's the guy who gets the the goal line work and stuff. So all these second backs are usually, it's like, wow, they're McKissick, he's really interesting, or Jamal Williams, like interesting because they get all these catches and how they're used. Not Connor. He is the goal line guy, and Arizona is going to score a lot.
He's the tight end of running backs.
So
hopefully he gets in the end zone.
Yeah, and I think he will a decent amount because his offense is so good. So Edmonds will probably get some of those, because if it's like a 7-yard, run in or something. But if he gets stopped at the 1, bring in Connor, run it in, and if your fantasy, 6 points, there you go, boom, 6.1 with the yard. There you go.
Absolutely. All right, next up, Bills Chiefs. We talked about Moss last week. Last week. I don't know, times whatever. Had another really nice day, number 21 last week, up to 14 on the season long. We've talked about him enough, but I mean, he did carry wise, he was right there with Singletary. But he is also, I don't know. I just like him more. Like we've talked about it. He looked really good. 14 for 61. I don't know. Got a touchdown. Got the touchdown for running backs. Trubisky ran one in too. But you have anything on the running backs or?
No, I mean Zach Moss is
kind of
Zach Moss
floundering
is
here for some reason.
Zach Moss is clearly the guy now. I think it's not. It's still close snap wise, but just from overall production, he obviously gets the touchdown. I mean that they both had 14 carries, so I think there's a chance you may have to start Singletary in a deep league, definitely. Mm-hmm. But he's like a flex play. He's probably around running back 35, somewhere around there. Zach Moss is probably 25, somewhere around there. So it's such a timeshare that I don't think you can probably go too much higher than that. But back-to-back weeks as well, it's been like that, where a complete timeshare. But yeah, he's been great. He got in the end zone, which obviously helps there. Not anything else. I think we did touch on him on a previous video if you want to watch that. But really, the big thing to note is just that he has taken over as the snap count guy and obviously the fantasy point guy. So that's all we care about is the fantasy points. But if he's on the field more, that's usually a good indication that it's going to continue as well. It's not just a fluke because he got in the end zone. Yeah. He's actually on the field more as well. So Diggs, great. Emmanuel Sanders, you continue to be right on Emmanuel Sanders, 5 for 74 on 6 targets.
I just want to point out that I think, if I'm not mistaken, when I brought him up, it was prior to week 3 when he had his number 5 wide receiver overall.
Yeah, it was. So
I'm telling you, he's clearly the number 2 guy there.
Cole Beasley only had 2 targets, so Knox had 2 touchdowns. I think he's in that Jared Cook spot. They're all around that 10.
If he gets in the end zone, he's gonna have a good day. If he doesn't, he's not gonna.
So he was tied in 1, but he had 5 for 37. It just happens that 2 of those catches were touchdowns. 8 targets though, so definitely a big part of the offense. I think if he's a streaming option, I don't think you're going to complain. Josh Allen, not the best day, but they faced the Texans and it was a complete blowout, so that's okay. It's okay if he didn't have a crazy fantasy day. That happens when there's blowouts. Usually the other team not scoring means your quarterback's probably not putting up a lot. The other opponent, they're not putting up a lot of fantasy points because they're pulling the other team out. So it's going to be
not every team's as bad as the Texans.
Yes. And speaking of not every team as bad as the Texans, their opponent is not as bad as the Texans. I'm pretty sure
they are not quite.
Even though their record is not great. Is it? Are they 1-3? Is the Kansas City Chiefs 1-3?
I believe that is true.
The Texans are 1-3. So really, they are the same because they're dead. I know they said they're dead last in the division. They are actually. It's wins and losses. They're the same. The Chiefs. I know they beat the Browns, but the Chiefs.
Are you going to continue to say this? Do I just let you go until you?
Chiefs lost to the Ravens.
They're
2-2. And they beat. I think they're 2-2. Yeah, they beat the Eagles. That's right. Just last week. Duh. So okay.
What I'm hearing is Butler's telling you to bench all your Chiefs. They're terrible. That's what I just said.
No, I'm just saying the Texans are better, obviously. But the Chiefs. All right, Patrick Mahomes.
And there goes our viewership.
Patrick Mahomes, 5 touchdowns. He's good. All right.
Decent at football.
Good quarterback. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Solid week here. I'm much lower on him. I think obviously this is a good day for him. But I'm not a huge. I got a touchdown as well. Obviously, good day. A good day. I'm not going to talk down on him because he had a great day. Hopefully, this continues. If you're an owner, I still think you're probably starting him. Obviously, if you drafted him, you're happy.
I think he's early. I think he's early 20s as opposed to 14.
I think, like I said earlier, Josh Jacobs I have above him this week, and I think But when you look past him, you look at Michael Carter. I'm looking at the James Conner. I'd play him over these guys: Mike Davis, Damian Harris, Miles Sanders, all those guys. Zach Moss. I would put Clyde Edwards-Helaire above him, but I think low 20s somewhere in there is about where he is. Tyreek Hill, you've been complaining. He's like, oh, he's not doing anything for me. Wow, he's losing my matchups. Are you okay?
Was I wrong? I wrong?
Are you okay?
No, I still lost this matchup, but that's not. It wasn't his fault this time. Ironically, I won the matchups when he was terrible, and then this week did not. But yeah, I never was concerned about him. I was disappointed. I wasn't mad. I was just disappointed, and then he redeemed himself, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't want to put the panic here, but should you drop Travis Kelce? He was tight end 21. Yep. There's probably tight ends that were higher than him.
I believe that's how numbers
on the waiver wire.
I'm gonna take a stab at this. I bet there were roughly 20 that were better than him.
You completely interrupted me as I was still finishing my sentence. I'm saying that are on the waiver wire. I'm guessing the 20 guys that were above him are one of those guys is available.
I apologize.
If you would have played one of those guys over Travis Kelce this week, you would be big brain genius. No, you would be an idiot. Obviously, that's a stupid thing.
All right, now he's calling our viewers idiots.
No one did that. Okay, if they did, okay, props, but don't ever do it again. You got lucky. Travis Kelce. I'm not worried. I'm gonna say that. Not worried. He's still currently tight end 2 on the year. So
it's pretty good when you can be tight end 2 when you were tight end 21.
Yeah, he had 4 for 23. Not a great day. Yeah. But that's okay. You obviously spent your first round pick on him probably. Not happy with that, but hey, it happens. This is probably his worst week of the entire year. I'm gonna go out and say that. So 6.3 points is his absolute. That's the bot. There's nowhere he's. I don't think he's going lower than that. So better days ahead.
Now when he does, just remember who jinxed him, and it wasn't me. All right, wrapping it up, we've got Colts Ravens. Half this game is relatively exciting. Colts, you kind of know what you're doing with the Colts. You're starting Taylor. You might be starting Pittman. Anything else?
No, I agree. Obviously, Cox had those 2 touchdowns, so Ali Cox. Okay.
Yeah, good for him. I'm very happy for him as a person.
I saw someone pick him up in my league. I'm like, congrats on wasting a pick on that. But I will say this: I think you're much lower on Michael Pittman. I actually think Michael Pittman is a based on the targets volume. The last 3 weeks, obviously, he's been 34 week 4, 31 week 3 on a points per game basis, or in these weeks, 18 in week 2. All 3 solid weeks. I think he's the guy. I think he's a top 25 guy. So I think there's a good way. I think there's a good chance you're starting him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that he could end up there. I just think right now there's so many, like, I don't know, it just feels like there's so many wide receivers that you easily could have all those guys on your team. That, I mean, maybe you're throwing Pittman in a flex, but I think he's not a guy you're penciling in without thinking about it.
Here, Allen Robinson. Would you rather start Michael Pittman or Allen Robinson?
Pittman.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the rankings. Jacoby Myers is behind him. T. Higgins. I actually would probably start T. Higgins over him if he plays. Hollywood Brown, probably start him over him. But then you get to Allen Robinson, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, Devontae Smith. I'd probably put him somewhere around 25. So a couple of guys of those I would put above.
Okay, you know what? I might have been wrong. If those are the names that are in that ballpark, then I was wrong.
So, I'll admit. So he's easily a top 30 guy. So there's a good chance he may be starting him. But again, flex, maybe have a running back in there as well. So there's a good chance he's on your bench as well. Hopefully he is, because that means your team is looking good right now. But great for bye weeks. So make sure, you'll be happy to use him during bye weeks, I think.
Hey, a name you just mentioned. I feel like you're accidentally running into decent transitions this episode. I'm pretty proud of you. Last up, we got the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 14 last week, 11 overall in the season. Not what you want, but you're putting him in every. He's too much of a weapon to risk not start. I can't imagine who you'd have that you'd be like. Even those guys we've talked about that were very happy with their performance and are ranked ahead of him technically overall in the season, you're still starting Lamar Jackson over because the upside is just too high.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, running back wise, it's kind of messy, right? Like, how much do you like
they've pretty much said Murray's the guy.
Yeah, but I don't think you like it.
Yeah,
he hasn't really done much.
I don't love him. Yeah.
So I'm not I probably think you're better. Even with it, I think there's better choices for me. I think like a Zach Moss I would rather play. I would even go like James Conner. I would play over him. So there's guys that I would play over.
Which is weird because we were so hard on whoever's the guy in Baltimore is going to be, but it's gotten so low on like how low they had to go on their depth chart. I mean, let me see. Yeah, all three running backs who had carries weren't on the roster to start the season.
Yeah, 3. I think I said like 4 years ago, you would have a real cap situation: Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, and Martin Freeman.
You'd have a cap situation with 2 of those, just with Bell and Freeman. So
we don't like that. But then you look at the wide receivers, Hollywood Brown. I look at the rankings and I saw him at like running back or wide receiver 30, 25-ish. I personally think he should be. He's such a big play guy that, and it seems kind of consistent. Like he's a big play, but it's like, okay, week 3, that was his only bad, but it was because he had some drops. I already said, he's going to catch the ball. He's a receiver. That's what receivers do. He learned to catch here. 4 catches on 5 targets in the touchdown. So the long touchdown. I think, honestly, I know it's crazy because it's like a lot of long touchdowns, a lot of long plays. Like, yeah, it's kind of inconsistent. It actually seems kind of consistent with how many big plays he's able to get. Obviously, he's got lightning speed. I mentioned before, I ran like a 4.4. I think he's faster than me. I'll say that. So props to Hollywood Brown. I think it would be close, but I think
I'm not acknowledging this is happening.
But I honestly think like Michael Pittman, I'd rather start Hollywood Brown. I think the upside is like I think Hollywood Brown is like a 20 somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
the upside's definitely bigger for sure.
I like him.
That would come down to what you need. If you're your team, like if you need or if you just need a guy to solidly get some points, you're probably going Pittman. But if you're gonna need the big play, like you're gonna need a lot, like a decent amount of points, yeah.
And this is a guy you would have drafted really late, so he's been exceptional based on where you drafted him.
And Andrews, you're still starting.
Yeah, I mean he's fine this week, and he'll continue to be somewhere probably most weeks top 10. Like he's going to be pretty consistent. Besides week 1, that's pretty much what he is. If he gets touchdowns, he's going to be one of the top tight ends that week. And every week he'll probably be around 10 even without a touchdown.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so that wraps up week 5. It is still crazy to me. I mentioned it last episode that we are this deep in the NFL season. Thankfully, we have that extra week this year, so hopefully that'll help out a bit. But we appreciate you coming by. If you made it this far, thank you. We appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, hit that 5 days a week. We got another short episode tomorrow, and then 5 episodes next week. We're still kind of up in the air on what those 5 episodes are going to look like, but we promise they'll be worth your time. And then hit the like, hit subscribe, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you, and we will be back with you tomorrow for a short one, and then next week for everything.
Yeah, thank you so much. All the support. It's amazing. Thank you. Share, tell a friend, all that stuff. It really does help us out. Thank you so much. We'll be back on Saturday, and then, yeah, next week, like you said. See ya.
Yep.